So, hey y'all, it's Nicole from Body, Mind, Spirit Wellness. We are here at the Blue Herbal Goddess, and today we are having a discussion about what is spirituality.
Well, ain't that something?
Yes, what is spirituality? Because there's so much discussion about what that is and what it is not, because that is, we want to kind of bring that in. So we're all gonna kind of have our own take on what is spirituality. So who wants to be the first one to bite that one off?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
That's cool. Well, because I was thinking about it all week. I was like, okay, how?
That's that Virgoism, yes.
How am I gonna really explain this? So then I thought about it, and I was like, well, everybody's spirituality is different. It's a you thing. It's not a us thing. It's a you thing. So I was looking at it, and I was like, okay, you know what I mean? The etymology of the word spirit is breath. We all know that. So we breathe. And then when you add the vitality on the back of it, so spirituality, that's the quality of. So the quality of breath. So what is your quality of breath you're taking? And that's what I was looking at. You know what I'm saying?
That's the big Virgo stuff.
Everybody has spirituality. It's just that what quality of breath are you taking that in or exhaling that out? You know what I mean? So basically, what frequency are you at? Where are you at vibrationally? You know what I'm saying? Are you in your lower self or are you in your higher self? Are you moving through it? You know what I'm saying? So the
Or
spirituality.
you sitting in it.
Or sitting in it. You know what I mean? So for me, spirituality it just is.
Can I go now?
Go for it.
Just like based off what you just said, because I was really like looking at that too, right? So like you said, it's breath, right? And so I had this conversation when I was in college with one of my boys, Akeem. I'll never forget this conversation because we were talking about the Big Bang, right? And how like the Bible talks about God spoke the word, right? In the beginning there was a word, the word was with God, the word was God, and God spoke things into existence, right? One thing about sound waves is like they don't stop moving. You know what I mean? So once you speak, it's like it's gonna keep going out until like you might not be able to hear it anymore. Doesn't mean to stop it, right? So the fact that he's talking about it being breath, right, and God spoke, that's breath right there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so like that was like the picture that we had online about the Big Bang was God speaking everything into existence. So that's like dope, right? But anyway, to circle back about like what is spirituality, I think it's like just knowing that you are of and from something bigger than yourself, right? And so I think that can also. How much time?
Go ahead. No,
I
go
can go
ahead.
like to go into.
I cut you out.
To go into what is not right, and one of the things that like I don't know if it's a pet peeve, whatever you want to call it, but one of the things that when people talk about like, oh, this is my truth or my truth, like when people like, to me, like truth is truth. Like truth is in and of its like by definition, in essence, is a definitive nature, right? It's of a definitive nature. So for people to say like, oh, this is my truth, it's like truth is not subjective. Because if it was subjective, then truth wouldn't be true. To say that you have your own truth, like, disregards so many things. You know what I mean? Whether it's like one for first and foremost, mental illness. Because if you're saying that your truth is a truth, then that just disregards what mental illness is. It disregards right and wrong. It disregards objectivity. You know what I mean? So I think that like what is not people, because that's where it's like when people talk about like my, that's not them talking from spirit.
Right.
That's them talking from soul.
It's ego.
And what soul is exactly is mind, will, emotion, right? And that's exactly like encompassing ego. So I think that one of the like big importances that people talk about when it is spirituality, because everybody wants to have their own viewpoint, which everybody has their own viewpoint. I understand that part, but like it is the recognition that you are like one of many, and one like a member of a body. But what it's not is, this is what I think and this is what I believe to be true because this is my truth. No. Truth is truth. You might have your own perspective and your own like experience in reality. That doesn't make it true.
So, well, look at that. Okay. Damn, so you had a whole bunch to say. Okay.
You said, in the beginning there was a word and the word was God, which that is, God, the word is, that comes from is Yahweh. Yahweh, that's how they pronounce it, but Yahweh actually isn't a word, it's YHWH, and it's actually a sound. You know what I'm saying? So the vibration, so like you said, vibration. That's why everybody got to raise their vibrations and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And then
At least you gotta have some understanding of what your vibration
And I
is.
felt what you're saying about truth because there is only one truth, and that's your truth. That's whoever's truth it is. That's because truth is relative. You know what I mean? That's how multiple realities exist all in one. But that's a whole nother topic. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, yeah. But that truth, the truth thing, a lot of people throw that out there, not really understanding the dynamic of that truth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you right. I gotta speak up. I'm sure you know. I got you. I got you for the people out there. I got you.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, that's dope though.
Y'all know what? I feel like I came here to eat.
I'm so hungry.
I'm not talking about food though.
Let
You say
No, like for real. Did y'all study? Did y'all get this like a note? Hey, we're gonna talk about spirituality today.
It was
No, it was just like the
She
first.
said,
She
she
was
was talking about
like,
spirituality.
hey, be prepared to talk about spirituality and what it means to you.
I didn't really get prepared because I really
Yeah.
didn't come up with names. So when I gave it, and it's just
Free
what it
flowing,
is.
yeah.
But what is it
Okay.
to you?
Okay, well, spirituality to me, wow, that was crazy. It's kind of like what y'all were saying, but like I'm this new person that's growing in spirituality. So for me, it's being able to see things without judging it.
Yeah.
You know, like conversations now. When I talk to people, even when they're talking to me, I hear them, but I don't. You know, I hear them, but I also hear what they're not saying. So I'm looking at them in a non-judgment like type of way. So spirituality is to me is being able to take yourself out of the situation and you know feel
Be
what-
there for them.
Yes, or you know, yes, just being there.
Be
So,
there.
Encompassing the whole.
Yeah.
Without, you know, because sometimes we talk and you know you're hearing, you're listening to respond, but you're not feeling what that person is really saying. You know, so for me, it's just being able to just be.
And I think that lends itself to why we're all here, because spirituality isn't just about the oneness of self, it's about the oneness of the body, right? So when you said that, that's exactly what I thought of, was that, you know, I'm here, to be there, hold a space for them, right? And not just myself, because again, it's all a part of the whole body, not just the oneness of self. Yeah. Spirituality is about the oneness of self and you learning that, but then it's also, once you figure that out, then how are you going to be one with the body? Yeah. That's what it,
Mind, body, wellness, spirit. Check it out.
yeah.
That was a plug.
Yeah, he just mucked that up too, but that's okay. Go for it. Yeah. Go for it.
So to me, spirituality is a journey of self and self-discovery to a point where you realize that there is no self, as everyone I believe is stating, that in a way you find out that you know nothing, but in learning this, you learn everything. So by losing yourself, you find yourself in every person. So the way we connect and find ourselves, yes, it has to do with vibration and resonance, but it's a little deeper to, as you go through this journey, you'll start to see, well, I see this part of me that likes to cook, so I can let that part of me talk to him. Or you come across somebody that's going through something painful. Because you've learned to give yourself unconditional love, and that version of yourself unconditional love, spirituality is a belief system that allows you to connect with other people at that vibration in order to help them out, because you're allowing that color or shade of that spectrum of light to imbue real unconditional love and alchemize it and gift it to that person and help them out of their darkness, to shine your light into them almost. So that way it's like atoms in a being. So yes, we're one of a whole, but you are still one.
Dang, Aries.
I like that.
You read the book?
Oh yeah.
What you said?
Man, this is like so profound. Today I was writing in my journal, you know, and I was just thinking about just what we were talking about, how you're talking to people. When he said you're being that light and just letting them, you know, give you what. That's exactly what I was talking about. Being able to hear what a person is saying, but also hear what they're not saying. And that's what you just did, because I know I didn't spill out everything that I was saying, and you just took it and just went right into it. And now I'm sitting here like, that's right. That's exactly what I wrote in my yellow notebook today.
Yep.
Because it allows you to see the truth. The truth goes to the whole. It has nothing to do with you, but how you identify it is your way. But to communicate to people to a point where you don't have to speak, you can talk to people of any age, any gender, any background. You communicate with animals once you realize that energy and self goes so much further than what you can relate to or what you would consciously think you can relate to. Once you allow that to go, you subconsciously start to realize that you connect to everything. Every living thing. Like, you even feel the energy of a body of water, a plant, an animal, even just an idea. You can feel the life of an idea.
But let's talk about that.
For sure.
How do you know? Because you were talking about connecting to individuals and how do we, because that's where a lot of the triggers, like, because as soon as you said it, I'm thinking of triggers. Like if we're one body and we're holding space for people, some people are they're gonna trigger you, right?
Yeah.
And this is a part of the journey of self. This is a part of the journey of spirituality, right? Is you keep growing because people trigger you, right?
Yep.
So how do you deal with that as you're on your spiritual journey? Is those triggers, which those triggers are actually things to help build you and to help you to grow.
Yeah.
Those are lessons that you have to face with courage.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the one thing that would help a lot of people is understanding that we don't act out of our conscious mind. You know what I mean? Like, action comes from the subconscious, right? And so one of the first things that anybody talks about on whether it's a spiritual journey, whether it's a financial success journey, one of the first things that people often talk about is changing their mindset, right? And why that's so important, whether it's through affirmations, whether it's through journaling, you know what I mean, is to get your mind right and your mind in a space where it's able to empty itself, to be able to pour in.
Say it
Correct.
again.
Yeah,
Where
empty.
it can what?
Empty itself.
Empty itself, right? Because that's very key when you're on your spiritual journey. Is you're gonna have to empty the old stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta make room for the new.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't keep trying to pour in. I can't keep pouring water in this cup, and it's already full. It's gonna run over. You know what
Or
I'm saying?
it's already diluted
Yeah.
because it's got the stuff
So,
in it that you
when
constantly
when
pouring.
You pour that into this.
Right.
It's gonna-
when you empty out and you bring in that positivity or that and I say positivity, lesson learned, whatever it was
Yep.
that you was going through, because it's a positive in every situation, and you shift your focus on that. But when you bring that in, you have to make room for that.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You can't bring that in and still be holding on.
Correct.
And that's where a lot of people, that's where the frustration comes from, and stagnation.
That's that push
all that type of
pull.
stuff. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
fighting with yourself, and then because
Love.
you're fighting with
Then you
yourself,
fight with
you're gonna fight with everybody around you or situations around you. You know what I mean? And it's just certain things. And as you empty out and you grow, it's a lot of things that when you empty, it's gonna be people, places, and things. It's gonna go away. You know what I mean? That's gonna be family members,
People,
and
places, things.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So-
That's why I like to think of spirituality, just to go back to the trigger thing and tie it all together to make it cohesive, as and when you start life, you have a box. Your parents give you this box. Your family members, your people that you learn to love, everybody that cares about you gives you these tools that they put inside that box. And you walk around with this box. So when you meet problems out in the world, you're like, well, I was taught to use this in this situation. I was taught to use that in this situation. Pastor taught me this, my uncle, my niece, my nephew, whoever it was. These people taught me to respond to these situations like this. In reality, what they did was give you the byproduct of their trauma. So they learned to deal with things a certain way, and they did it for you. So spirituality kind of opens up your mind to say, do I want to take the time to empty everything? It's your choice. You can either take your time and empty every one of these things out, identifying each one to say, this one came from my aunt, this one came from Granny, this came from so-and-so. Or you could actually just throw the whole damn box away and say, you know what, I'm going to take a lease on life, and I'm going to just start over fresh, and I'm going to figure out my own way. I'm going to have some grace. I'm going to give myself a little self-love.
Giving self grace.
And however I learned this,
yes,
ain't nothing wrong with it, because everybody out here making mistakes, but at least I can only blame and keep myself accountable for these. I'm not going to say, oh, well, Terry is the one that told me how to deal with this way, so it's his fault it didn't work out. No, I'm saying straight
because
up.
there's a
it's
lot of
on me.
people that actually do that. They blame this because I had trauma with this. Yes, it is trauma, but now as an adult, you have a choice
Yep.
to heal from that trauma instead of constantly throwing more salt onto that
I
wound,
noticed
right?
when I was going, on my journey, and still is, that when I do empty stuff out, I go through my let goes and getting that stuff up out of there, I realize that a lot of that stuff ain't even my thoughts.
You done picked
It's
it up
other
somewhere.
people's thoughts, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm reacting off somebody else's thoughts, so I'm not even in my right frame of mind. You know what I'm
See,
saying?
that goes back to two of
So-
like, oh my bad.
Oh,
I cut you off.
you good. I was gonna say, when you do get in your right frame of mind and you start realizing, you start thinking for yourself, that's where you find out who you are. And when you find out who you are, you can progress or transcend or ascend or level up or whatever it is that y'all want to call it, because that's one thing I love about spirituality. A lot of people use different words for a lot of things, but you gonna feel it. You know what they saying when they say it.
Yeah.
When they're not misusing it through someone else's thoughts
Exactly.
or an indoctrination.
Well, and that's the part that I was getting to, is like going back to the conscious versus subconscious thing. Like, there's so much that is like has been downloaded into our subconscious, whether it's through media, whether it's through family, whether it's through, like you said, oh, I was taught in church, or I was taught by so and so how to deal with this. So we don't understand, like, that's not even how we, like, that's not how we naturally deal with things. That's just how I was taught how to react.
Correct.
So guess what? When you're looking into your wellness of your body, your mind, your spirit, you're assessing your health, and you go, man, I'm not doing well mentally, and you get down on yourself about it, or I'm not doing well financially, you beat yourself up, and you don't even realize that you're being a byproduct of something that you low-key almost didn't even realize was being built up or rewritten over and over for years. And once you unwrite all that, everything becomes so much easier, because you learn who you are and you decide to do it your way and not the way somebody else taught you. Even making money and paying bills. Who says I have to do it this way? I can do it this way. There's so many different ways I can do it. Why not do something that works for me? A lot of people are miserable, they're sad, they're depressed, and it's simply because they aren't living a life that they chose to live.
They don't know themselves.
But to a degree, everybody has choice.
Yeah.
But they are living a life that isn't for them, and it's eating away at their spirit. Because when your body and your mind and your spirit ain't in order, you're always gonna be able to tell, because something ain't gonna go right in your life.
So how do you identify, or how is it that you help yourself to identify which one is out of alignment, body, mind, or spirit? Or what are some tools that you've used to help yourself get into alignment? Sharon?
Well, this is really hitting deep, y'all. Just want y'all to know. Back, when we were growing up, like when we were kids, and your parents would tell you to do something, and in your mind you're like, oh man, this is not right. But you can't say nothing. Look at what's the first thing they said? Stay in a child's place. Don't, but you have your own thoughts. So we had our own thoughts as a kid. Now what I'm seeing is a lot of, when I'm starting to go through things, I do hear the pastor. I do hear my grandma. I hear all of those voices. And coming from a person who was heavily on depression medication, because I was fighting my own spirits. I was fighting my spirits against what the world said I'm supposed to be. So that's a battle. So the battle was in the mind, and I was trying to calm the mind with the medication. So now what I do is I ask myself that question. I just stop and pause. Is this my thoughts, or is it somebody else's? Am I comparing myself to somebody else? Where am I getting from? So it's a question that I ask myself. I'll just stop. You'll see me shopping, and sometimes I'll just stop and you probably think I'm crazy, but hey, I'm.
You gotta have your own mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
To deal with
it's
that.
just consulting with your spirit before you jump out there in whatever it is that you're trying to do. So for me, it's just stop, consult. Is it my thought, or is it that of somebody else?
I agree. That's what I'll do, is I'll stop, I'll meditate, I'll start having a full-blown conversation out loud, because then that's me trying to tap into, my guides, divine, because somebody's about to fill in the blank. The blank is going to get filled in at some point during this full-blown conversation I'm having. Or just sit still. Don't do nothing. No television, no phone. I'm not talking to nobody, just plain empty. It may be a whole day where I'm doing nothing. I may be sitting out on the porch. I may be sitting in the living room, I might close my eyes, meditation music, just nothing. And I think a lot of people have a problem not doing nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Detaching is a huge part of it. Because
Yes.
right there, the very first thing you're going to have to navigate through the darkness is loneliness and alone. Once you learn to be
Boom,
alone,
boom, 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 boom.
and I'm not just lonely, then you can
Yes.
hear yourself to say,
What
okay.
did you say? I'm alone but not lonely.
Exactly.
There you go.
Then you can hear yourself think, and you can hear yourself express what you need to do, because you might need to just work out, you might need to eat better. Sometimes I need to create, so I'll write, or I draw, or I paint, or I call a friend and talk it out, or talking to myself. But you can't think if you have all these inputs,
Yeah,
like
all
in
this
your phone.
noise coming
Yeah,
at
you gotta
you.
shut all of it out.
Yep.
Yeah, so, when I think of mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit, for me, when I went started my whole thing, I couldn't work on one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't allowing me to do that. I mean, I tried, but nothing was going right, like you said. And it was just getting worse and worse. So I really figured out I had to work on all three at the same time with me. And as I did that, it was a lot of what you call it? I'm not gonna use the word. I'm not gonna say isolation, but I basically went into self-isolation from like the world. Like I didn't watch TV. I still don't that much. I don't watch the news at all. I don't listen to hip hop. I mean, there's certain things that I just don't do because I have to be in a space where I can detach and understand that. And that's one of the 7 spiritual laws of success is the law of detachment. You understand that when you detach, you open yourself up to pure potentiality.
Yep.
So then you bring things in and you don't worry about how you're gonna get to B. You just deal with A for the day.
You say deal with A for
You know
today.
what I'm saying? So like, that really brought me like sitting with myself. I was forced to sit with myself at
Correct.
first due to the motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
And that damn near killed me because I damn near went and took myself out over there because I couldn't deal with who I was. Because I had one question: who am I? And I couldn't answer it. I knew who society dictated me to be. I knew all that, and I've said this in other podcasts, and I've said it's in my book. But at the same time, you know, really, that's a daily thing. I have to reflect daily. I have to ground daily. I have to meditate daily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In order to detach. You know, people ask me like, man, I said, well, sometimes, you know, I plug into the matrix and you know what I mean? Because I got to feed the ego, because I got to have the ego in order to have my higher self.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And I got to stay
And
balanced.
I think a lot of people don't understand that just because you start to become into this oneness with self, right, in the spirituality, you still have to plug in sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't completely be detached because some of the very people that you need to help are still in.
And when you detach, when you fully detach from the matrix, now I have this conversation with my brother earlier today over text, but when you fully detach, that means you're detaching from your lower self. You're no longer grounded in self. And that's how you see people out here that go cuckoo or like Nikola Tesla. You understand me? He got so infatuated with 369 that he detached.
He lost sight of
And everybody thought he went crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't he went crazy, he was just detached from his lower self, the lower chakras. That's why it's a whole balancing thing in the Kundalini energy. And it rises and it comes back down and it goes back up.
Yeah, you just we'll get into that later. Like I'm just saying we'll get into that later. Like he going all the way. He burying himself in that one. Yeah, we there, but we ain't there.
You gotta have balance, because without balance, things will start to go out of whack, and it'll be to where all of a sudden I can't sleep at night. That's because you're not taking care of balance. All of a sudden, my body ain't feeling good, even though I have no actual ailments, or I generated ailment because I'm worrying myself.
Yes.
Someone gets sick. Like, you'll start to get all these things, or like the motorcycle accident. My thing was I wasn't paying attention, and I ended up tearing my ACL, MCL, but it's because I wasn't in balance. Things will just happen. You end up, losing all the money you was just saving.
Things just happen to make you notice.
To slow you down.
Right, it is. It's meant to slow you down, but most people don't recognize that. they will call it, oh, the devil is after me, or that happened because of so and so, right? People will blame other things and not really paying attention that
If you
it
don't
was meant to
choose-
happen.
If you don't choose to isolate the grow like a caterpillar,
If you
hop in
don't,
that cocoon on your own,
yes,
and you
divine
don't
will
have
make
to
it
be
happen.
thrown in there.
It will make.
Just like when anything's off balance, like what happens, right? Is compensation. So
Mhm.
you start compensating, just like with any injury, right? Any natural energy or injury in your body, you'll naturally start to compensate on one of the other pillars,
Mhm.
right? So I'm just from personal experience, like I noticed that one of the things I have to constantly work on, like, is spirit, right? So mind and body, like, to me that's too, like, body I work out, I make sure that I eat right, so that part's cool, that's too easy, right? Mind I gotta, like, definitely gotta work on that a little more so because, like you said, triggers, right? So I gotta really work on, like, hey bro, like, stuff ain't that serious, right? One of the parts that's like the weakest and like it's always been this way for me is my spirit, because I don't feed my spirit man enough. You know what I mean? And so you can see like what he was talking about, generating physical ailments or feeling like whether it's depression or like super like what temper, like not being able to control your temper, things like that. So all of these things is from being out of alignment. You know what I mean?
So we're and as soon as I said it was 555. I was getting ready to say wrapping it up. Is what suggestion or what would be something on your heart to just kind of help people as they're trying to find themselves in this matrix that we're in? What would be kind of a word or something or encouragement that you would have for
One
somebody?
that I have is grace.
Real quick.
Grace. Give yourself grace and balance. So I don't just say I'm working on body, mind, and spirit. If I'm cutting people out of my life that ain't no good for me, I'm throwing things away that I'm not using. I'm not wasting energy or time, and I'm also saying it's okay to make mistakes along the way because everybody has to learn some kind of way.
Yep.
I would say, one, you need to definitely love yourself. Apologize to yourself and thank yourself. Have gratitude for you, because a lot of times we worry about what everybody else doing and what we can do for everybody else, and we never really sit back and pat ourselves on the back sometimes. So just sit with self, you know what I mean, and read Psalms 46:10. It'll hook you up.
You gotta learn to be comfortable with yourself. Like, learn how to look in the mirror and like look past what you see. You know what I mean? Because everything has a root, and you're not gonna be able to get to the root unless you start looking at the plant, and you're the plant. You know what I mean? So be like, learn, and it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna suck, and you're not gonna want to do it. You're gonna cry, you're gonna be mad, you're gonna start pointing the finger, but like just sit there with yourself and like learn why you are you. Because that's the only way you're gonna be able to break through the trauma. It's the only way you're gonna be able to drop baggage. It's the only way you're gonna be able to find your purpose and your gift. And like, this ain't no religious thing. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I'm not ashamed of it. Read the Bible. There's whether you follow Jesus or not. Like, there's truths in the Bible that literally you can see in the world and everything. Like, read the Bible, bro. Like, if nothing else, like, sit with yourself and read the Bible. Like, that's it.
Yeah, with everything that they just said, patience with yourself. Nobody got here overnight, even though they had, these feelings and these increments of how things were. Nobody got here overnight, and nobody knows everything. Your spirit will tell you, you will feel it, no doubt about it, if something is right or wrong. Just be patient with yourself.
And I would say, be vulnerable. Trigger word. Right, that was like right there.
That's my favorite
Is
one.
because the journey can be lonely, and parts of it lonely in the sense of because you're unpacking your stuff, but that may also cause you to be vulnerable. And finding the right people to be vulnerable with is going to be very critical. Like, finding the tribe where you can be vulnerable with, where they're not going to judge you, where they're not going to use it against you, right, as you are progressing. And there's a key is you'll know that because you'll feel it, like Sharon was saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if they using it against you, or now you done heard something that you done did, and somebody else done told what, then you know you're not in the right group,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Right.
all a part of your growth is being vulnerable with like-minded people. So, thank you all for listening. Next discussion: spirituality versus religion.
Gang.
That's gonna be
Favorite.
that's gonna be a good one.
Yes,
That's gonna be a good
it's
one.
gonna be spirituality. So we'll see y'all then.
That's all.
Yeah.